Greetings and salutations, one and all. It's me, Robert Phoenix, your man in the shadows. That's right. I am broadcasting to you from the shadows. It's kind of a metaphoric moment. However, if you want to see the sunshine of my life, here she is right here. She's kind of like the snow leopard. If you were to come over to my house, you probably wouldn't see her. She hides out. She's like the snow leopard. She's like a rare and mysterious species of house cat. That's right. Yeah. I've been looking at these videos of what are they called? Savannah cats. Savannah cats, which are hybrid serval cats. And then I've been looking at these serval cat videos. And then I've been looking at these caracal cat videos. Now, the caracal cat, I don't know, man. It's a little too hissy for my taste. But the other two cats were kind of interesting. The serval cats, they live 30 years. 30 freaking years. So if you wanted a long-term investment in a pet, there you go. Get yourself a serval cat. All right, what's happening, everybody? Good to see you all. Of course, our chat is an all-star crew. Leading off today, batting first from Texas is Liddy Lou, California Contrarian, misbehaving too. Healing Heart Rosie. It's going to be a great day. You know it is. Scott Jersey in the house. Mr. DJ MC Michael Sisternino batting in the let's see who bats sixth for the Giants, although Michael's a Dodger fan. Michael's a Dodger. Back in the day, this is pre Mr. Sisternino. Wes Parker would have batted sixth in the Dodgers lineup. Moving it forward a little bit, Jim Wynn would have batted sixth in the Dodgers lineup. And then moving it even forward a bit more, I would go with maybe, this is a guy Michael might remember, Mike Marshall. Mike Marshall would have batted sixth in the Dodgers lineup. By the way, Mike Marshall used to date Belinda Carlisle of the Go-Go's. Who else we have? Melissa Stanton. Greetings and beautiful picture, Robert. Yes, that is from the great state of Georgia. It's a bunch of nice looking flowers today on the thumbnail. Sunflowers from the great state of Georgia. Devin Dewar, thanks for your prompt yesterday, Robert. I used the Virgo moon to get deep cleaning done. Yes. There you go. Devin Dewar, double D. Right. Good job. We got double D followed by double B. Barbara Boots, good morning. Very cold here. Unseasonably so. I had freeze warnings last night. It's just above 33 this morning. Wait till Mars goes into Leo. Things are going to heat up. Queen Lisa checking in from sunny Florida. Our guy, double K, California. We got double vowels here, or double consonants. California Contrarian, highs in the 70s, lows in the high 40s for the foreseeable future. Another day in paradise. Love it. Here, this is an astrological question. You can always bring your astrological questions to the chat. I'm more than happy to do my best to address them and answer them. I have a stellium in Aries, and I'm looking at the Libra moon. And it happens to be my moon coming up. And it happens to be surprise right on the day after my birthday. Are you going to make it? Of course you are. Of course you are. You got that beautiful Libra full moon. You'll be just fine. Absolutely. My guy Ryan, greetings. Mr. Introspective ruck packer, woodworker. Ryan, getting his ruck pack on. Christina Jerzik, CJ, what's happening? Yes, right there. Become a member of the 11th house over on locals. Yes, thank you. artists here. Hi from Florida. And don't forget to hit the like button. Notification bell, subscribe. Yes, indeed. Let's see. Hammer time. Coffee in bed this morning. Well, aren't you decadent, Miss Hammer Time? I like it. Mary Grethler in the house. Hi, Mary. Yes, we have 50 minutes of flame over on Rumble today. It'll be a good show. I'm going to be talking about the hijacking of astrology by the so-called right. Some of you astrologically minded folks might be aware of the drama that our good friend David Palmer went through yesterday when somebody accused him of plagiarizing their content and stealing their predictions. I find that quite hard to believe, actually. Let's see. I find that quite hard to believe. In fact, I don't believe it at all. Anyway, there's a longer story behind it and some of the other things I'm starting to see with astrology as it relates to political positions. And I'm going to get into that today over on 15 minutes. Orlando, back into his house. Orlando, if I had a little coffee, I'd toast you, but I'm out. Lynette Jardine, our bad Maxine, she's here. Big Dave Sullivan, Susan, morning back at you, Susan. Julian Ross, or Julianne Ross. And then my pronunciation there. My guy, Steve, in the house. Look who's here, Mr. Salty Cow. There you go. Thank you. Catherine Rosen. What's happening, CR? Good to see our guy, Mr. Biloxi Blues, Charlie himself. What's going on, Charlie? Claire from Scotland. Hi, Claire. The lovely and talented one. Sabine Austin, 1 2 at a time. She's with us. My guy, Marcus, from the great white north, where everything is thawing out. And, Mark, I hope your body is thawing out with it along the way. Integrity and Karma. What's going on, Lorena? Harry Bowie. Yeah. Josie Jazzy Jump. Listen to that Possum Kingdom. Expect that. Tom Jordan in the house. Literally. Let's see who we have. Soul Traveler. Amy Gill. Yes, you want an astrology reading? I'm the guy. Make it happen. I tell you, we've had so many good experiences and stories with coaching lately, which is one of my favorite things to do. I love working with people on the coaching tip because it gives me and the other person a long runway to really tackle some stuff. And all the people that I've been working with have been just absolute warriors, total warriors, just digging in and going at it and doing what they need to do. Man. And I got to say, the majority of these folks are Gen Xers. Now, some of them are millennials and some of them are boomers, but the majority are Gen Xers. And man, Gen X, always felt like Gen X has this. Look, first of all, I want to say that everybody is spiritual. Every generation has its own sort of expression of spirituality, but Gen X really took the spirituality in a very different way, like a duck in a water sort of experience. And I've always liked the outer planets of Gen X with Pluto and Libra, Neptune in Sagittarius, and Uranus and Scorpio, or Uranus and Sag. Like, those are really interesting outer planets. So hats off to Gen X doing the work. Let's see. Anybody else new here? We got Michelle Renee. Moira NYC. Go Leo King. We are behind you. I'm going to throw this up here. Claire posted this. The copycat energy is nuts just now. It's all I seem to read on in a collective, but more like they do it to him. Rainbows and butterflies. I'm surprised that David's army of followers didn't go after starseed astrology. So I'm going to just address this really, really quickly. Sherilyn Grayer from New Brunswick. Wow, you're way up there, Sherilyn. Welcome to the show. Janice Phillips is here. Goat Mama. Let's see. Penny, I had that clown block an extra outright bunk astrology. See, this is what I want to address. I'm going to talk more about it on 15 minutes, but look, I don't like necessarily bad mouthing people. You know, I've gotten to this place where I just want to do my own thing, and you know, people aren't really like doing something that I vibe with or can't co-sign on. Like there was a time when I would really like grind on some of these people. And I do it occasionally every now and then, only if it's really egregious. Kind of shifted my focus a little bit. But there was a period where I was following Starseed Astro and they were following me. And I found myself correcting almost every single one of their posts because it was misleading. The way that they were talking about it was wrong, limited. And I'm like, it just felt very superficial and trite. I'm like, I can't follow these people because I just found myself correcting them all the time. And I don't want to be the great corrector. Like every now and then, you know, Virgo, Scorpio rising kicks in and you know, the correction happens. But it's like I have better things to do with my time. So the bunk astrology is like kind of on the money penny. Money penny. See how I did that? It's early, but it's not too early for yours truly. Anyway, I'll get into more of that over on 15 because there's other people now that they're hijacking the astrological space. It's fascinating to watch. Really fascinating to watch. So I'll talk about that and I'll talk about it more. All right, why don't we get into the weather? Let's get into the weather. Let's get into the weather together. Weather together. We're together with the weather. Something we'll have to understand forever. All right. Maybe I should just sing. Maybe I should just sing the weather one of these days. You remember K-Tel's Greatest Hits? Yeah. It's Robert Phoenix singing the Astro Weather's Greatest Hits. So a little ditty lined up for everything. Saturn in Cancer, you're no romancer unless you're breaking sweat over bread. There we go. That would be a challenge with it, to sing the entire. All right, here we go. It's a lot like yesterday, only different. And that's the weather. Yeah, we got the moon in Virgo. You got to love the moon in Virgo. Get industrious. Very industrious. Uh, Try not to hold other people too high when it comes to your standards of perfection. This is what happens when you get this Moon Jupiter square. Come on, you can do it. Just lose those 5 extra pounds. Why not? You can do it. Eat one meal a day like me. Go totally carnivore. You can do it. You did it for 2 weeks. You lose those 5 pounds. I would say it's okay to be enthusiastic. You can do it. I know you can do it. You want to lose those pounds? I'm with you. Put me on speed dial. When you want to reach for that carb, just give me a call and I'll talk you off the ledge. I mean, you could do something like that, but there's kind of an overriding sense of expectation here with this Moon Jupiter square, and you don't want to be on the other side of that either. Ladies, how many of you out there heard that song and dance from your mother at a certain point in time? Probably more than one or two. And it probably didn't feel real good. Why? Because that Virgo moon is definitely a critical moon. And whether or not your mother had a Virgo moon or was a Virgo, all mothers tend to be critical, especially when it comes to their daughters. Not as much for their sons. It's how it works with fathers and sons. That's why you're supposed to have two of them in a family, theoretically, so they can exchange the heat. Right? Great. One boy, one girl, and it all kind of balances out. But as we know, life isn't perfect. And we do with what we can. Anyway, just watch out for having too many expectations here. Now, the other side of this Jupiter moon square is that sometimes Jupiter can be a bit of a temptation. Maybe you're the one that's a bit at risk here. It's like, yeah, it's okay. Have another slice of that birthday cake. It's so good. And their birthday only comes around once a year. Go ahead. But have another glass of that champagne. Right? I mean, this is what happens here, this Jupiter moon square. There's another component to this that is also, I think, really interesting. I'm going to talk about some of it over on the 15 minutes of flame. As you know, most of you know, I'm a fan of Jason Whitlock's. I think he does a great job. I don't always agree entirely with what Jason puts out there, but based on, like, Jason's got a lane and he's got to stay in. And he does a pretty good job, like, getting as close to the guardrails as possible. And he's been covering this Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf. I remember the last name this time. Tragic story. I mean, it's really a story of epic tragic proportion up there in Frisco, not far from McKinney, where Libby New lives. And Nick Fuentes started to troll Jason Whitlock on Twitter. And this is a really interesting phenomenon. I'm going to talk more about it over on 15. But to me, it's also this Moon Jupiter square where there are unrealistic expectations when you're dealing with Virgo, and particularly the moon in Virgo. And the moon is a reflection of mass psychology. And when you have a level of unrealistic expectations, and then you have Jupiter coming in Gemini, which is the trickster, and squaring off against the moon, you're going to find people out there in the world whose story does not hold up. Right? Their story doesn't hold up. Their reputation doesn't hold up. There's something about what they're going through that it's like, whoa, this is not good. And this is people that are essentially pointing their fingers at other people and accusing them of the same things that they themselves are guilty of. And we've seen this at work with the Democratic Party and the left, and they got master's class in projection. So this is one of those days where I would say notable public figures, they don't stand up to the scrutiny of their own morality or platform. Okay? Right there. Keep your eye on that. Keep your eye on it. Jupiter is also in square with Venus. Venus is continuing to, inch backward, inch backward. When Venus hits Saturn and stations on Saturn, that's going to be a very, very interesting time. That's sort of a reckoning period with relationships. And it's not just relationships. I would say it's relationship with God, Creator. It's going to be interesting because it's not quite on Easter, but it's also not far away. We've got Easter on 420, which is wild. But it does have a bit of a come to Jesus alignment here with this Venus-Saturn conjunction. I'm going to go, okay, here's a prediction. Time is 8:23. My prediction is that there is going to be some kind of holy phenomenon that will take place between this Venus-Saturn conjunction and Easter, which falls on 420. There's going to be some kind of holy phenomenon. One of these things where, people see an apparition, or there's going to be some kind of holy phenomenon. And people who are into the end time story are going to see that, and they're going to use that as proof and evidence that the second coming is right around the corner. And it could be one of these rivers running red moments, or there's something happening here with this Venus-Saturn conjunction. This is the come to Jesus conjunction. And so we have the come to Jesus conjunction in our own lives, but then out there, and that, so on the so-called Jewish side, right, you get people like Rebbe Schneerson and his video with Benjamin Netanyahu. And Schneerson has passed away now, by the way, but the video is, you must speed things up. You must push harder. You must push harder. And he's basically telling Netanyahu, hey, listen, you got to fuck up the world more. You got to do more. You got to bring more chaos because, we got to bring the Moshiach in. This is what he's really telling him, right? Because if you get into Chabad, we're having a bit of a religious discourse, but if you get into Chabad, they are the inheritors of the Sabbatean Frankist model. And the Olam Tikkun, which is the great cleansing and purification, which started with the individual way back in the day, going as far back as 1666, it has cultural ramifications. So we'll put that over here in this bucket. And over here, you have the crazy Christian fundamentalists in their acceleration towards the second coming or the return of Jesus, right? And they're looking at all these tragic world events as being a sign, right? He's coming back. He's coming back. The world has to be in a total state of chaos. And the fulfillment of prophecy returns, comes to life, right? So watch out for this Venus-Saturn conjunction also in those terms, because everybody wants to have some stake in the return of the one. And we're coming up, right? It's going to be very interesting. Very, very interesting. So Venus is squaring Jupiter today. And later on tonight, like here in this part of the world, for those of you in other parts of the world, it will just be later on, wherever it is for you. This moon is going to swing into, and we're talking late, maybe like 10 o'clock here. Even tomorrow is really going to be the moon opposition with Venus. And still in kind of a wide square with Jupiter. That's going to be a bit of a wild T-square in these mutable planets. And you'll run into people who will be adamant and vehement about something, and the next minute they'll completely change their emotional script. Not as much today, but tomorrow. And you're like, what the fuck? 3 hours ago, you were on the other side of the fence on this, and now you're over here. So there's a lot of mutability and kind of unsteady channeling of emotion. We live in unsteady times. It's not going to get any steadier anytime soon. So when you have a T-square like this with this mutability, you're just going to find people who are going to be, like, which side do you want? Since it's mutable, just kind of let it pass, let it pass, let it pass. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Here we go. The Mars Brigade, Venus, Saturn, Mercury. Mercury direct right there, connecting in with Mars and Cancer. I think and feel, therefore I am and act. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. I do like this Mercury-Saturn conjunction as Mercury begins to separate. It gives this, this watery Mercury kind of more of a, like a kind of a cistern filled with water. So if your emotional content is moving in the right direction, well, you can get a lot done. Right? You can get a lot done. And it feels to me like, because we don't have a lot of Earth in the sky, the only we have is this crazy Uranus and Taurus. We, being on this physical plane, need physical examples of things that we've done or accomplished. It's very important. Like, I did that. See that pile of leaves over there? I raked them. I did that. And this is about as close as it gets without a lot of water, is this Mercury-Saturn conjunction. So the idea is you are moved by the spirits, which is really Pisces, and you move it into action with Mars, and it has some form of physical manifestation. That would be Saturn. So it's not, the only challenge here is sometimes you're not going to get credit for the things that you do. Mars is in Leo. That will be a different story. Everybody will want credit for something. I did that. I said that. I was there first. Right? But for now, it's you humble people toil and work and get things done without any regard for recognition. Why? Because it's just who you are. I salute you. And there's many of you out there. Today's one of those days. Just make sure that it winds up in some form of physical manifestation. So you say, yeah. Here we go now. We are now in the Mars-Neptune square. So I was extolling the virtues of work. Don't overwork. This is what you want to watch out for with this Mars-Neptune square, is overworking. There is a point where selflessness becomes, I don't know, a form of masochism. You don't want to get there. You don't want to get there. Like when you start to hit the red, stop. Do not go into the red. There's a time to put things down So I'm good. I'm good. You go past that point, you keep going, you will have a negative return, which is what this Mars-Neptune square would be indicative of, a negative return. And so all the things that you were working on and doing and kind of going with the flow with, it starts to dissipate and leave you. Diminishing returns. When you get to the point where you said, okay, I've had enough, stop. Mars-Neptune squares are not great or conducive. We're going to have this Mars-Neptune square for a while, right? In fact, it's been there for a while. When Mars moves into Leo, that'll be very, very different. But we're kind of at the end of this, at the end of the Mars. We have a Mars Sun square. We talked more about that yesterday. And that's just prickly. That's a prickly energy right there. And it's going to get pricklier with this Sun Mars square. Interesting. We'll be coming up on this full moon here in good old Libra. I was like the full moon in Libra. It doesn't have a moon in Libra. Kind of a soft spot in my heart for the moon in Libra. But it does take a bit of the edge. Oh, you know, I talked about Earth. We do have Earth besides Uranus. It's this moon. It's this mutable, manic moon in Virgo. Now, when we get into that tomorrow, we start getting into that trine with Uranus. Well, that'll be really interesting. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. How does that sound? Okay, there's your weather. Oh, let's talk just a little bit about Ceres in Pisces. Nurture thy spirit. Nurture thy spirit. Right? This is the aspect of nurturing one's communion with God, Creator, whatever term you'd like to use here. This is what Ceres is all about. You know, this is also, I've always felt like Ceres is like the shepherd's staff. And, you know, when I think of Jesus, Sananda, Emmanuel, I think of the shepherd, the good shepherd, right? There you go. So nurture thy spirit. Okay. Shall we get into a little Astro Weather? Why not? Why not? Let's bring up the banner here. Okay. Today's, the start of the day. Today's True Hemp Science star of the day is Valerie Solanas. You don't know who she is? You'll find out more about her in just a minute. True Hemp Science is your one-stop shop for all things CBD. All you got to do is spend $100 or more, and you will get a goodie bag with your order. Just type in 15MINS, 15MINS, and you will be the recipient of all that CBD goodness. The gummies, you'll get some gummies in there. You'll be so happy you got those gummies. And there'll be a few other things as well. I call it the Whitman sampler of your CBD order. And by the way, the products that you'll purchase are top shelf. All of them are organically sourced. And the great thing about our guy Chris, he's a mad scientist. His elixirs are cut above everybody else's. So if you order $150 more, you get free shipping. And there's always a 30-day money-back guarantee. Can't beat that. All right, let's talk about Valerie Solanas. Some of you might know who she is. There was a movie made about her called I Shot Andy Warhol. And she did. She did shoot Andy Warhol. Valerie Solanas has become a cause celeb in the sort of second and third wave, mostly third wave feminism, because she didn't like what Andy Warhol was doing. In fact, she believes that he stole her play that she had written. Speaking of plagiarism, and she'd had enough with old Andy. So she was a member of the factory scene, and she went in and put a couple of bullets in him. Now, clearly, you could see this with her chart: Aries rising, Sun on the ascendant, Mercury in Aries. What does Aries represent? It represents violence, and she's a double Aries. She came locked and loaded, right? And she has this square with Pluto. Yikes. Square with Pluto. I can tell you right now that Valerie Solanas was sexually violated in her home. That's Pluto right there in the old fourth house. Now, not everybody that has Pluto in the fourth house has been sexually violated. But the preponderance of that happening with Pluto there is far greater. Okay? So she was already a ticking time bomb. She was a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. And Andy Warhol handed her the bullets. I mean, part of it was the scene, right? Like, Andy Warhol loved beautiful people. If you look at Edie Sedgwick was beautiful. Joe D'Alessandro. Joe D'Alessandro had the looks of a, handsome downtown New York hustler, right? So when I say hustler, I'm talking about hustler like John Voight in Midnight Cowboy, that kind of a hustler, right? And mostly turning tricks on men. And Andy didn't discriminate against people who weren't beautiful. Like, there were a number of people in the factory scene, Jackie Curtis being one of them. I wouldn't say it was beautiful, but Nico was beautiful. Edie Sedgwick was beautiful. Joe D'Alessandro was kind of a, handsome hustler dude, right? And even some of the people in the Velvet Underground, like, I wouldn't say Lou Reed was ugly. I wouldn't say John Cale was ugly. He looked like Welsh, but he wasn't. So Warhol kind of liked having beautiful people around. Valerie Solanas, although having a very striking jaw, I wouldn't necessarily call her beautiful. She ugly. There are other pictures where she looks not as good as this, to be honest with you. So she's going to feel a bit ostracized, or she's going to feel a bit left out because she doesn't fit the factory mold. And yet that's kind of where New York's freaks sort of hung out, right? Like, San Francisco kind of had their freaky section, Haight-Ashbury, you know what I mean? Like, that's where the San Francisco freaks hung out. In LA, you had the Canyon. There were freaks hanging out in the Canyon. In New York, the freaks hung out at the factory with Andy Warhol. That's where the scene was. And she doesn't really fit the scene, although she's part of the scene because she's kind of a freak. Now, she is not really a baby boomer. She belongs to a different generation. So somebody like Edie Sedgwick, who I believe was a baby boomer, shows up. And this is not somebody that Valerie Solanas. Maybe Valerie Solanas was in love with Edie Sedgwick. Who knows? But she's from a different generation. She doesn't really fit in. Andy Warhol steals her play. And she's pissed. Not only does she have the Sun and Mercury right there locked and loaded on her ascendant, but she also has Uranus and Mars in her first house. Mars being the ruler of Aries, of course. And man, she has got an itchy finger here. And look at that conjunction, 4-5. And what is this doing? Hello, squaring Pluto as well. Look, this woman was bound to put a bullet in somebody at some point. And, there are some people who probably applauded the fact that she put a couple of slugs in Andy Warhol, right? Like, how many people looked at his art and said, that's not art, that's a soup can. So she may have had a few silent fans when it happened, but this is, she's this is a person walking on a high tension wire. Okay, high tension wire. Itchy trigger finger, ready to go. Her mental stability, I would say, is also in question. Right? She has Chiron in Gemini in the second house, squaring Neptune and squaring Saturn. It's just a little schizophrenic here, especially with this Chiron square, very delusional. Valerie Solanas was not mentally well. And I guess when she had enough, that Chiron sextile to the Sun and Mercury, the voices in her head, go kill Andy Warhol, she was more than willing to listen to him. The other thing that's pretty intense about her chart is that moon in Scorpio. And we know how intense that moon in Scorpio is. And there's that inconjunct with the sun. And it's like, that, to me, that's like the devil that's just eating away at her. Not getting enough credit, feeling screwed over, jealous even. Jealous of like what other people were doing, accomplishing. She was an English major. She wrote a bunch of stuff. She was kind of interesting. She wrote this feminist manifesto that over the years has gotten a lot more traction in fandom, right? She's a very odd, and yet at the same, in some ways, their beef was different. But in some ways, she reminds me a little of Ted Kaczynski, because they're both of them are these outsiders. They don't really fit into the world that they're living in, but they're trying to. They both write manifestos. Kaczynski, of course, does things that are going to impact not just one person, but a number of different people who he believes are setting the stage for the virtual prison we're currently living in. Ted wasn't wrong about a lot of that stuff, by the way, but she reminds me of Kaczynski. And even in the same regard that Kaczynski has a bit of a cult status, like, is there a Luigi Mangione without a Ted Kaczynski? I don't know, because he read Kaczynski. And somewhere out there's a woman or a young woman with a grudge who has read Valerie Solanas and has seen the movie I Shot Andy Warhol. And so I would call people like Valerie Solanas and Ted Kaczynski dark saints, right? They're dark, like dark individuals. And yet there's a certain group of people who have sanctified them. She's got this Sun Jupiter chart. She's got Jupiter and Sagittarius in the 9th house. That's publishing. I don't think she was dumb. This is not a dumb person. Contrary, she's actually quite intelligent if we're having an astrological conversation about this. The other thing that's interesting is she has no impulse control. But when you have the Sun in front of Mercury, what do? You act. You don't think first, right? If Mercury's in front of the Sun, you think, "No, what's going to happen if I do this?" People have Mercury in front of the Sun. play the odds and play the angles. They look and say, hey, what happens if I do this or this or this? People that have the sun from Mercury, they don't go there. I'm going to do this. And then say, oh, okay, well, let me register the details here. Okay, all right, good. Yeah, this is what happened. Or this is what happens when you do this. So she has no impulse control. Sun at 19, Mercury at 18, right in the ascendant. No impulse control. Anyway, there's your True Hemp Science star of the day, Valerie Solanas. I shot Angel. And I just finished the Astro Weather. So I hope that all of you have gotten something out of this day or out of this presentation. And I have nothing but faith and confidence in each and every one of you that you will get something out of this day. How much ever time you have on it left. Get something memorable, meaningful, something that you can use as spiritual mana, whether it's bright, dark, or blandly milquetoast and in between. Yes, even that can feed your spirit. All right. Take good care. Take good care of yourselves. Treat each other well. God bless. Love you all. Robert Phoenix signing off.